It's getting recorded, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we can start with. So we should go this way. I mean, easy, medium, and followed by medium.
Let's go with the hard first, right? That is what we were discussing last time. Is it
Okay.
okay?
Yeah, I don't have any problem.
Okay, let's do it.
Oh. So this is the so first array of unique integers is given to us, and each integer is strictly greater than one. We are supposed to make a binary tree using these integers, and each may be used for any number of times. And so each of the non-leaf nodes value should be equal to the product of the value of its children. So how many such binary trees are possible, and you have to return the answer using mod 2. So looking at the first example, alone 2 and 4 and 4, what you say, if 4 is the root, 2 and 2 is the children. 2 cross 2 is 4. Then 2, 4, 5, 10, and then 4 we can get 2 cross 2, then 2 cross 5 and 5 cross 2 with 10 as a root. So, and the length is around 1000, and each element will be less than equal to 10 raised to power 9 and greater than 2 should be at least here. Yeah, so how to proceed here?
Okay, so actually we have to find all the binary tree, all the, like a binary subtree first.
Yeah,
So it'll have a root and then it'll have its two leaves. And the property that they have given over here is like uh, all the non-leaves, whatever the values of the non-leaves are, if we take a product of that, that will be the root, right?
yeah,
So that should be
yeah,
the root. So the way one thing clicks to me here is like, the root will always have a value more than the leaves, right?
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so it will always be greater than the leaves. So here we are given an array of all such numbers. So we can actually uh, go in a while loop, okay, to find two pairs of numbers, okay. So in the first one, it is fine. If we take an example of the second, we can always look at like, so if we take an example of 5 and 2, if we multiply 5 multiplied by 2 equals 10, and then we find 10 also in this input array. So it means we can form a subtree there, right?
Chapter, yeah,
Yeah, so if we go through this route in some form of two for loops, okay, and then we keep on finding all these pairs, right?
okay,
So if we have three pairs, three numbers like 2, 5, and 10, and they are all distinct numbers. Okay, and also one thing what they have given here, I think, is the numbers are all greater than one. There is no,
yeah, strictly greater than 1.
yeah, strictly greater. So you won't have a number one at all, and they are all uniques, right?
Yeah,
So you won't have duplicates there. So if we have duplicates, it means that it is the same number itself, right? So in
so according
case,
to you, like you will get three indices, three numbers you want to find such that product of two numbers equal to third, right?
right. So in that case, I will say if they, all the three indexes are different, then it means I can form two such combinations of that subtree, right?
Yeah,
So that
yeah,
can be two ways. And so I keep on doing for each and every one, you know. And then at the end, then when I'm doing that, I always keep a count of how many I found till that time, the subtrees. Okay. And then I just add it. Okay. And also, when I do that, I actually, whatever the number of inputs are, each of them can be a single subtree itself with zero leaves. Correct.
so if zero leaves are there, then they are telling root should be a product of uh, leaves.
Yeah,
That was the
that's true, but they are considering. Usually, we can consider, right, if it's a non-leaf tree, so it can be a tree, right? So I
yeah,
will
but
just add whatever my input array sizes
Yeah.
to this value what I've been finding, when I'm going through this whole array. So
But
I'm just thinking loud. I don't think so. It will be a really good brute force though.
and every node itself is a non-leaf node only, right? It's not a non-leaf node, right? Every node itself is a leaf node or not?
No, there's nothing like they mentioned that. They are just given an input, right? So only the property that they are saying, if we have to construct a subtree, we need to say that whatever the non-leaf node is, its value will be a product of its leaves. That is what the property that they have given. So
Yeah.
that is the only thing what they are looking for. So okay, in that case, what I would, it comes to me as, when we have to look something as a root which is greater than the leaves, it is always better to sort them, correct? So at least we
Okay.
can look for, if we are starting from the first index, we can look for some index which is higher than my current index, you know. That is the reason I will try to find out, right? If I have
Yeah.
a product of my two leaves, that should be on the higher index.
Higher index.
So that is the reason I would try to sort it. Okay. Yeah, I would sort it. So at least
So
I'm sure that there is something. Yeah. Sorry, go
so
ahead.
every next number, if you divide by the previous number, you'll get the other number, right? Like 4 is there, you'll divide by 2, you'll get resultant as 2, and you'll check. I mean, make a set of this entire array.
Right.
But yeah, and like you told, we will sort it first and take each number and divide by its previous, like 4 divided by 2. And if you find 2 inside my set, then that could form a, what do you say?
Okay, you are saying that we can do the reverse way, like you start with the highest value
Yeah,
and then go, decrement the indexes and see if we have some numbers which whenever you divide them by the highest value, and then find if there is a number which is actually corresponding to that value.
yeah, you are doing multiplication, I am doing
Yeah,
division. Yeah,
division.
that's
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that also makes sense. Absolutely. But I was trying to think how can we do a brute force, and that is slightly not so easy task. That is what I'm thinking. At least for me. Maybe if someone has any thoughts on that.
yeah, yeah, sure.
So I think Santosh, the way you explained,
Hmm.
so if we have like here we just have a root and a left and a right. So what if the left, sorry, has its own tree? I think that is something we need to take care of.
Oh, you mean to say if there is already a subtree existing?
Right,
Okay,
right.
and then we use that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes sense. Absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah.
then it would be like if suppose we have 842 and like that some with some bigger number we have so many elements like that which can form a tree. Can't we say that it would be n into n plus 1 by 2? Like that many number of trees can be formed, right?
Then you'll
Sorry.
have to establish a relationship first, right? To call that.
Yeah. Okay. If we do that, okay.
So what we were thinking, like if we do a brute force, how do we get that relationship? You know?
Uh, Actually, what you told was true. When you try to find if there is an element, if there is two numbers whose product is equals to some number, we shouldn't stop there. We should see if that number with something else is also present. So on, we can see how until until when it's going to stop.
Right, right.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, we can store somewhere like somewhere in array where we know like how many number of trees are there with that particular node as the root. Right. So basically,
Yeah.
if we focus on this 10 and 2 and 5, so if I know that let's say there are X number of trees with 2 as the root and there are 5 and there are Y number of trees with 5 as the root, then we can simply multiply and that would be the count of number of trees with 10 as the root.
Hmm. Okay, so in that
Meaning,
case, you'll start with the root first, means with the highest element, and then take a leaf as the lowest element and then divide that and then find those numbers. How would you like to go? Just
Yes, I
curious to
would.
know.
Yeah, so I think I would go by your approach only. I'll run two loops, and in the first loop, I'll just fix one element, and I'll then uh, first of all I'll push all the elements in a hash, unordered map, and then in the second for loop, I'll check whether nums of I divide by nums of j is there in the hash map or not, and if it is there, then and I'll just multiply the number of trees with dp of dp of nums of j into dp of nums of I by j.
Okay.
And secondly, when you are saying number of trees that you can form with 2 as a root is x and with 5 as y. So minimum of x and y you will take, right?
It will be x into y.
Like with 2 you can form x number of trees, right?
Right? I think that's a
With y we can form y number of trees.
right.
Okay, so you can't directly multiply x into y. You will have to take minimum of, because for every tree 1, 2 and 1, 5 you will consume, right?
No, I think we can using that multiplication theorem of counting, where so there would be like x into y number of permutations. For every subtree of 2, we have y number of trees with root as 5. So for x number of trees with 2 as the root, we have x into y, and 10 we
So
are fixing as the root.
so the tree that will be formed out of 2 and 5 will be 10 as a root and children will be 2 and 5, right?
Right.
Right, like the direct
Yeah,
children.
so for that number of 2 and number of 5 should be equal, right? X into y, then only we can do. No, let's say 5 is 10
No, they
and
are all
2 is
unique,
5.
right? They are all unique.
Yeah, they would
Yeah,
be.
but okay, if 2 is 10 and 5 is with 5 you can form 5 trees. So how many
Okay.
trees can we form? 50 trees.
Yeah.
One question. If we have 10, 2, and 5, if we take 2 as the left child and 5 as the right child, and if we take 5 as the left child and 2 as the right child, will that be different? Is
Yeah, that will be another case.
That will be two trees, right? Therefore, if the indexes are different, of 2, 5, 10, so we can always consider them as two trees.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is what the special cases
If
of
there,
example one. In example one,
yeah,
when where we have 2 as in the last example 4 to 2, the output 4 to 2. So where we have taken 2 twice, okay, but we know that both the indexes are same. Okay, so in that case,
yeah,
it's only forming one tree there.
yeah. So we need to check whether the product is like we are making it with the same element or different element. If there's different element, then we need to multiply it by 2.
Right, right, right. So, but that is so your case, Dilip, what you said will work. You said n into n plus 1 by 2, right? In that case, you will just count
Yeah,
the indexes, right? So
yeah,
in 2 and 4, if you divide 2, if you divide 4 by 2, you will find 2, which is present in our input array. But when you count the indexes, there will be only 2, right? So
yeah,
therefore, whatever you do, the value, it will be like n into n plus 1 by 2 will be 3 or so, something like that. Okay.
yeah,
But if they are distinct, then it will be more.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we can count which are distinct and add as an extra to this.
Yeah. Yeah. So that might be a brute force way of doing it, right?
Yeah,
So to have two for loops. Okay, no problem.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
then now an optimized version or a better way of doing it.
Hmm. Yeah, I think what Harshit was telling, using memoization, like,
Correct. Yeah, I think that will be a good way to do, right?
yeah. So Harshit wants to share.
So, okay, before that, so Harshit, what you said, you will just use this input array, put it in a unordered map, right? An hash table or so. Correct. So that will be just to map the value of the input with its index, correct?
Right. So basically, the way I thought of it was, I wanted to check whether 10 by 2, that is 5, is there in the array or not.
Mm-hmm.
So if my map returns me a true value for that particular 10 by 2, then basically I'll multiply that number of trees with root as 5. I think that can be taken care of by sorting also. I'm not 100% sure.
I think you will have to sort. That will be a better to do. But you still need to find if the values there, right?
Ronnie has some like mic issues because every time.
Yeah, I think Ronnie he's trying to talk, but it's a lot of background noise there, right?
Yeah, Ronnie, you can write in the chat.
Yeah, maybe he can actually log out and log in again. Yeah. Okay, so that is one way of doing it. The only reason we need an unordered map is to have a mapping of the value with your index, because we need to find the index and we have to use that index. Okay, so actually to find how many subtrees we can actually construct, right? So that information will surely need. We need a sorting because we have to always look for the root which is always greater than our leaves, right? So therefore
Yeah.
we need sorting. And
But
then actually, yeah, sorry.
sorry, go on. So
And mhm.
so if we like, so can you repeat like why do we need sorting?
Sorting what I was thinking, like when we take an example like 2, 4, 5, 10, okay. So and we start from the lowest index, okay. We look for like I have 2, and then I multiply 2 with 4. I say it is 8, and I try to find if there is 8 already present using my unordered map. Okay, if it is not, then I just skip that. Then I go for, instead of 4, I multiply by 5. So 2 into 5 is 10, and then I 5, 10, right? So I'm actually going in an increasing order, right?
You're going the other way.
Yeah. So that
Yeah,
is the way I thought. Either like what
but
Shashank, yeah, sorry.
but I don't see how how whether you're going in increasing order helps us here, right? Anyway, you're using hash map that gave us so often, and we are randomly checking for every element, see if the other element product is there in the array or not. So I don't see how sorting helps here.
Yeah, because we just have to check whether that other factor is there in the array or not. That can be taken care of by a hash map only. But the way Santosh explained, like he is going from increasing order, then probably you might need sorting.
Yeah, that is what I
Go,
think. Hmm.
but going in increasing order doesn't help us anyway, right? Like even if you're going in increasing order, we are trying to pair each element with every other element.
Right.
Even if they are random or in the sorted order, we are anyway checking every element with every other element and checking whether the product is there or not.
Okay, so the reason what will happen, when you are forming a bigger tree, okay, so like now it is 2, 5, and 10, okay. But what I have something like I already have 10, I multiply that with 2, and I have a 20, okay. So again, I have to go up, right? So I don't want to go back.
Okay, to check
Okay.
whether 2 and 10 is
Yeah, so
forming.
I keep going in some
Increasing.
order, maybe increasing or decreasing to find how many values I have. And so I need some point where I can say, okay, I cannot go further than that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Something like that. Therefore, I think
Oh,
sorting will surely help. Anyway, this solution will be sort of, if I'm using 2 for loops, it will be n square. So having
yeah.
sorting won't be a much of a big deal there, right?
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Yeah. So, but this will this tends to be more of a dynamic problem, right? Dynamic programming problem, right? DP problem.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
And so the reason for this is because
Memoization, I think.
we are having a
Because
lot of
repeating.
overlappings.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because like we have a subtree, that subtree will be used somewhere else. So we can actually use a memoization and store that information of the subtree, so which can be used further in a recursion, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so that there will surely be an overlapping, as well as we can have an optimal solution also, right?
I So optimal solution for this will be DP only, because you have overlapping sub problems.
Yeah. So we have both the properties of DP, and therefore we will have to use. It will be
DP.
better to use a
Or
DP.
there might be some maths, what Dilip was saying, like.
But
I mean,
for that also,
I
you'll have to still find the indexes, correct? For each and
No,
every value.
but one quick question, like even if we are using the DP, then also it becomes O of n square only, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if we don't use DP, it will be more.
DP ON square always it's giving most of the cases.
Yeah, so basically like if we can do something like this, suppose whenever we get the array, okay, let's put all the elements in the hash map, okay. After that, what we'll do, we'll start iterating over the array. Okay. And whenever we'll iterate over the array, we will divide, like suppose taking the example 2. So we start from 2, and so like let's start from the end or sort the array first. That will becomes O of n log n, okay. So that becomes 10, 5, 4, 2. Okay. Then put all the elements in the hash map, and then start from 10 and iterate over all the elements next to it. So 5, 10 divided by 5, 2. So we will check if 2 exists in the hash map. If yes, we'll put that in the subtree. Then we'll divide by 4. It's not available. Then divide by 2. 10 divided by 2, 5 exists in the hash map. Then becomes a part of the subtree. Okay. Then leave 10. Then come to 5. Okay. So then 5 by 4 doesn't comes. 5 by 2 doesn't comes. Leave it. Then come to 4. Okay. 4 by 2. Then that becomes 2. 2 is already in the hash map, and we can have the repetition. Okay. So then 4, 2, comma 2, that becomes the part of the solution. Then we comes to 2. There is nothing next to it. So we'll just give 2 as the entry. So this will also becomes O of n square. It will become O of n log n for the sorting. Then it becomes O of n for putting the elements in the hash map, and then O of n square for iteration.
Yeah, but if bigger tree is there, you might found some of the problems which you have already solved. So how will you use it? You have to use table something for.
Yeah. So
The same thing is going here. What you are saying, yeah.
Yeah, actually, his approach is correct, right, Ashutosh? But you are saying like we do a reverse descending order of
Yes,
sorting, right? Okay, 10, 5, 4, 2. That is fine. But then you start with the 10 as a root, and then you go down. Okay, so then you are considering only 10. But then what will happen? Like if you have now this is a smaller input array, but if we have a bigger one, so you are missing the smaller subtrees also, right? So why we were trying to do from the, descending should have worked, there's no doubt about it. But why I was trying for the ascending one, because we first form the smaller subtrees, because that will also be counted as separate inputs, outputs, right? And that on that I'm going to build the bigger one. But if you start with the bigger one and you just form a bigger one, then you go to the end, then you are done, right? So you are actually missing the smaller ones. Okay. You got my point.
Actually, I don't think so. Actually, after considering the biggest one, we'll be coming back to the smaller ones, right?
Yeah,
in the method that Anishan explained.
Yeah, but he should be counting that, because he will have to have that information of whether this particular node is a part of a small subtree, right? So you'll have to store. So somewhere he will have to use a storage where he will store the information, right? Or
if
else
you
how
don't
are
mind,
going to get that?
if you don't mind, can you explain it with some, like there's some pictorial, some block, something, how we are missing?
Can you please give an example array?
We can
Let's
add
say
12 and 3 in the second example.
We add 12 and 3. Okay, let's do
then
that.
we get 3 levels.
Okay, just make it blue. So you are saying like we make it 12 and then 10. Okay, I'm just making a sorting, right? Just for time being. Then I have 4 and then I have 3 and 2, correct?
Yeah.
So yeah, so if you form from 12, in that case, you will see like I'm right now just not worrying about how it is forming. So I have 12 and then I have 4 and 3, right? So this is 1 because I'm going from here, and then in the 4 I can have 2 2. Okay, and then okay, then this is 1. Okay, so as per your logic, means the way I understood, Ashutosh,
Yeah,
so you go from 12 and then you go down. Okay, you find 4 3 and 2. Okay, so the way we do it, we can find the details of the implementation later, but to just understand the problem. Okay, so we go from 12, then we have 4 3 2. So we say, okay, we have found one tree. So what I was
Yeah.
trying to say, these 4 and 2 is one also subtree, right? So
Okay.
that will be missing. Also 12 and 4 3, right? That might also be a one subtree. So but here you are considering only one, but really it is not only one. This is one big one, also 2. In this case also it will be 12 4
Yeah,
3
yeah.
12 3
Understood.
4.
Understood.
Yeah.
Yeah, understood. Yeah.
So how do we get that? I understand that is correct way of doing it, but I would say, like, whenever you are doing that, you can store information here saying in 4 I have something like 2 subtrees which are my these 2 leaves, okay, as well as 3 and 1 are single subtrees, right? And then the 12 actually is forming based on all these subtrees, you know. So
Yeah.
that way you will have that information percolating from the bottom up or the top down some way, you know. So that is
Okay.
where the DP comes into,
Picture.
yeah, that is what it is helpful. That is what I think. Maybe I'm just thinking loud. You guys can give
No,
more
no. Yeah,
information.
this makes
Yeah,
sense. This makes sense.
yeah,
A
This
4 3
totally
can
makes
also reverse like 3 4 with that also combination. This is
yeah,
the one
yeah,
combination which you have drawn. Yeah.
yeah. So that this will be 2, this will be 2, and then overall will be here will be 5, something like that, right?
Yeah.
At the 12 position.
So if there was no repeating over sub problems, we could have gone with the method mentioned
Oh, this
by
will be 1. Yeah,
Ashutosh. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I see. Yeah, you have already one solution there, right, Shashank?
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
want to,
Sure.
or someone else has something to share?
Yeah. If somebody wants to share.
Okay, let's go ahead with this first.
Yes. Sure. 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 So it's same on the same grounds. Like first of all, we are sorting the number, and this is the final sum that will be returning how many trees are formed, and creating a dictionary. This one. So we are going through each of the numbers along with the indices, and for every number, like alone itself is one tree, right? Like 2 4.
Yeah.
So whenever you for that I'm putting this one, and once let's say you are reaching at 5, then you will from 2 to 4 you will go and and see if that particular number is dividing this 4. Then just check how many trees you are able to form with that number, and when you divide that number by, I mean, on the num, then this will also give you some number of trees that you are forming, and take those two values and then multiply them and just add it to this number, and this is the, what do you say, the final result that you have to return. So how many trees that you form corresponding to this number we are returning. So it's like with 10 equal to 2 into 5 is 10. So with 2, how many trees you can form, and 10 by 5, 10 by 2 you will do, it will be 5. So how many trees you can form from this, and multiply those many combinations are possible, that you will update here.
Yeah. Shashank, one thing I think
Yeah.
we can avoid sorting by doing some modifications. Like in line number 8, if we run this loop for the entire array and we hash all the elements, then I don't think we need sorting.
That's like, but let's say 100 was there in your array 2. I mean, second example, 2 4 5 10 and 100 was there, right?
So when you try to make for 100,
Okay.
you will just check whether that particular num of a of j is there in the hash map or not. And if it's there, you can pick that value using this DP array.
Well,
Can you
actually, yeah.
like remove the sorting part and make a hash map and then hash all the elements?
Okay, I have the approach for what you are talking about, which has a
Yeah.
hash map also as well as sorting. You know, the reason why that DP, okay, I'll just share it.
I think the sorting is helping in that second loop only. We are not traversing the entire array. We are just traversing from 0 to I.
Yeah, but the
The
reason,
factors.
yeah, but we actually have to store that information the way he's storing, right, in the DP array. Okay,
Right,
so
right.
if we
That we
have a
do.
sorting, then it stores in a what do you say, like the way we do for the memoization version, right? We build on the smaller subtrees. So
Yeah.
that is the reason we need that information. That is what I think. Yeah, but what you say, we can check that also. I hope so. If this is the same thing what you are also talking about, maybe there is some changes we can actually modify and see if it works. So here I'm sorting this array. Then I'm using this memory unmodeled map as an index. Okay, and I'm actually storing the value of that input array with its indexes. Okay, so is this what you wanted to say about that, the another map, Harshit?
So are we using this index like the value part of hash map somewhere?
Yeah, we are
Oh, we
using,
yeah,
yeah.
right, right, right. So what I
So
was saying is
uh-huh.
that we let's not store this this index. Let's just store true or false in the value part, because if the element is already there, then we'll have this DP of that element, right?
So true or false, you mean to say you just have a boolean for the unordered map?
Yeah, yeah,
Then we can see, we can just have a unordered set also in that case,
right.
right? Yeah. So that can be done. So you just want to see if it is present or not, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, but the way they have used this implementation, why the
right.
indexes are required here, because they want to build on that lower sub arrays to the top,
Right.
right?
I
So
got
that is the reason they are using it. Okay. So if we just walk through first, let's walk through this solution, and then we can actually say, and the rest of the part is almost like what Shashank is doing. Okay. So, but
Yeah.
first, what they are checking here is, like for always, this is like a length, you're starting with length 0, length 1, 2, 3, 4, and going to the length n. Okay. Every time you're actually building the small subtrees first. Okay. And then there's DP array is all initialized to values 1. So we have all ones. So each single element is a one subtree, right?
Subtree. Yes.
Yeah. So then we go through these two for loops, but this is like we go through the upper for loop, which is just the length from 0 to n. And then whenever we have a single length, we actually traverse that length. Okay. And then find if that particular AI, which AI is the outer loops I, right? So that value, if we multiply with all its whatever those elements are of lesser than that I, we actually divide that and see if it is equally divisible. Okay, so we are sure that it is there is no remainder and it's perfect division. And then we find if there is a node, because we want to find a pair, right? So if you want to find a pair, so we need to know, have some pair of aj and the node, which if is multiplied, we can have ai, right? So that node actually, if it is present in inner map, okay, so the way Harshit was thinking about using a set. So if you find that in this value, so we can use that information, okay, this index node, because that will be where this index node, earlier this value will be stored in the DP array. So that multiplied by this, because when we are actually building from the smaller subtrees uh, to the top, we can use that information. And then this is also similar part what Shashank is doing. So you multiply with dpj and the newly formed nodes index. So that whatever you multiply, again, you are actually adding to the same DPI. Okay. So we are just actually adding that and then just having a modulo of mod 7. Right. So if we
So
do that and then we come here at the end, because we have all this information, then we'll have to run through the whole DP array and then add each and every value of the DP array and then actually have to return that.
final result. Yeah.
Yeah. So each and every index will actually have its previous subtrees in it. Okay. So it is not a single subtree information present at one place. Okay, but we have, for each and every subtree, we know how many subtrees we are having, and then we are actually going up. But when we reach the top, we actually have to add each and every information for each and every element of the DP tree.
what is that index.count node that is giving number of trees corresponding 21
Index dot count.
count of node. So number of trees with that node, is it?
No, actually, when you are okay, when you are actually forming an AI, right? So AI will be multiplied by two. AI is like a root, okay? So
Okay.
it will be formed with the two leaves, right? So one is AJ, okay? So this is the second loop what we are going through, and the
Yeah,
other
yeah,
will be we'll have to find out if we have any other node, okay? So this node multiplied by AJ equals AI,
yeah, yes.
right? So that is what we need to find. If we have a subtree which has two leaves, okay, the product of the two leaves have to be the value of that root. So we're trying to find that,
Index.count.
and that index.count is actually finding this value, the pair of the other node.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
because we need two nodes, right? In this case, if you go for the example two, so we have two, and if I is 10, okay, in this case, if AI is 10 and if AJ is 2, so we divide AI by 10 by 2, right? In that case, we'll get 5. So we need to find where 5 is, and therefore this is the way we are using to find. If first we need to find if it is there. Okay, if it is present, then only we go and update the information in the DP array.
Yeah. How many trees are
Yeah,
formed out of?
yeah.
Yes.
So in this case, when we do the index node, so we know that it at this index, okay. So whatever is that value of this 5, okay, we multiply that with the DP array. So here it is 1 and this is 1. 1, this is nothing, so it will be 1. And so 1 plus 1 will be 2. So at value 10, we will be storing two values, right? So because we
Yeah.
can form this two ways, 10 to 5 and 10 5 2, because they both are distinct values.
So it's a bottom up only overall.
It is bottom up, yeah.
Yeah. So if somebody wants to go for top down, what will do? Same thing. T of n is equal to T of that recurrence relation. T of n minus T of n in T of I into T of n by I, right?
Yeah, top down, I think maybe we can actually do a sorting in the descending order, and then actually recursively go to the end and then start building the tree from there. Right?
Yeah. What will be the recurrence relation? Same only. No. What like number of trees formed is equal to.
Yeah, it will be slightly difficult though to come up with, because now I am in that mindset, okay, looking
Yeah.
at this bottom up.
Yeah.
I
Bottom.
never thought of that way, but actually it should be possible to do it the top down way also.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
that might be more intuitive to understand, I would say. Yeah.
I think top down would be like for example, if you have 36 and we have 12, 6 and 2 like that. Uh, First, we need to find is there like how we are finding it here? If there is a multiplier for that, and see, try to find the answer for that first, and that would all those the answers of that recursive call will be the added to this one. So all of them will be all of these for 36 we are trying to find an answer, maybe which we get some x value, and for that we found the values of 12, 6 and 2, something like that. Every time we find a value, we add it to some global counter, and also it will return to the the one function which was called from this. And so with these results we can form the result of the root value, and that will be added to the global counter.
Okay. Okay. Do you want to actually explain it through a whiteboard, or maybe go through a discussion forum where we can find some solution like that? Is that
I didn't see, but I just thought it like how
Yeah,
how
that's good actually. But if we want
yeah
to actually understand it, if you can take help of some of the some
yeah
implementation in the discussion forum there,
uh,
and then
like should I explain the whiteboard or like
sure, anything is fine. Yeah.
I don't know. Okay. What I'm doing is, if so, for example, if you have 36, 12, uh, 3, 4, and 2, something like that. Okay, I don't know whether we need to sort it or go in order like that.
Okay.
But for first, I'm trying to find the value for 36. Okay, so we have a global counter, which is 0.
Mhm.
So first, I'm trying to find number of binaries can be formed with 36. So for that, for 36, I will check whether is there any of them or the multiplier for that. So 12 is one of them. So for 12, what we need? We need 3, right? 12.
Yeah.
3 and 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I came to know that 12 and 3 are multiple. So what I will do is, this is a function for 36. Okay. So to find this, what we do is we try to find the values of 12 and also multiply that with function of 3. So and also now I need to try to find the answer for function 12. That will be called. So I will try to find the answer for 12. Maybe I will get some x value. When I get this x value, I will add it to this counter. So this will be like counter plus x. Then I'll try to find the answer for 3, and that would be y. Then I will add it to some global counter, and I will return these values here. So my answer for 36 would be x into y, and we check whether there are any other multiples and calling that. And along doing on the way when we are doing this, we try to do memorization of this 12 and 3. So that if we encounter that 12 and 3 again, or 3 somewhere for the 12, we can directly get the value from there. We can return the value over here. But I think we need to we have already added that to the counter, so we need to avoid doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
think that is making sense and taking shape also. But only
exactly
one
f of
thing,
y.
yeah, when you're saying a function of 36, then you are actually looking for the products of function of 12 and function of 3, right?
Yeah.
So, but then what happens like if, and that whatever function of 3 value you're returning, that will be your answer,
Basically.
or yeah, global count will be an answer, I think. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Global counter will be the answer.
Okay.
So it's like a tree, right? 36 will be multiple of 12 and 3. 12 will be multiple of 3 and 4, and so on till you reach the leaves.
Yeah,
Right.
maybe not binary tree. Because
Not
you can have,
binary, n-array tree it will be like
yeah, maybe.
no binary tree only.
But we have 12 and 3, and also we can have like maybe if you have 6 here, we can have 6 and 6 also.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Not an array. Yeah. It will be an array, sorry.
yeah, maybe.
All this like this recurrence, I think would be a part of a for loop, right? Because as you said,
Yeah,
for 36 we'll have to find 12 first, and then
yeah.
like check for 36 by 12 whether it's there or not.
Yeah, but actually the problem statement is binary trees only. So in this case, when we have 6, 6 and 36, that will be a separate binary tree.
No, 6 will be covered here. If there is a 6, then 12 will be a product of 6 cross 2.
You know, that is fine, but the way he's showing here, right? 36, 12, 3 is also one tree, and 36, 6, 6 will be another tree. Okay, so that will be 2 trees, separate 2 trees. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can
Add that, yeah. Okay, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
Something like that. Okay, that's good. So we are forming a recurrence relationship here also, right?
Yeah.
So but we'll have to refine it for the global counter and the base values. In the base case, what we are looking at like whatever the roots are, if they are the product of the root, right? Whatever the leaves are, if they are a product of the root, then we return 1.
Yeah,
When
maybe.
you cannot divide further.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
return
cannot
one.
divide. Yeah, return one, or if we cannot divide further, and if it's not remained at 0, then we actually return 0 then.
Yeah.
Okay. But then we'll miss the subtree which has only 2, right?
No, that we are taking care. No, whenever we can't divide 2, we'll return 1 from there to the parent
And also we need to add to global counter at that point.
global. Yeah.
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 So rather we can initialize like every element of the array with 1, and then
1. Yeah,
basically,
that's also nice.
like if we have crossed the array, then return 0.
Yeah, but
that
he's
again,
trying to maintain a global count instead of an array. Yeah, but in memorization we can do that. But yeah. Mhm.
So in
Okay.
memorization, like so you'll have, like in memorization for at index 36 we will have this value, right?
Okay.
So I don't know, maybe we need to sum at the end all the values in memorization, or
No, memorization we can't, right? We actually, whatever value we put in that memorization, we should not change it, right? Usually that is the way
yeah.
it is done. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That is good.
yeah.
So,
So just one confusion I have. We have just one loop, right, in this top down, like the way we are having 2 loops in the bottom up. Or
top
we'll
down, we'll have only one loop. Yes.
because let's say we start with 36, so that we can access using recursion, like nums of 0, and then setting, and then looking for the like one loop for the other factor, and the third, like the second factor, we can check like using an ordered hash map.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. This was the reason for sorting. Like, if we have, I mean, we need to calculate for the smaller ones first, so that in bigger one, if we come across factor. Yeah. This is, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we can switch to next then already. I
Okay.
think.
Yeah.
So next is like partition equal subset sum. So non-empty array, which is consisting of positive integers, and we have to find if the array can be partitioned into 2 subsets such that sum of the elements in both the subsets is equal, and each of the array elements will not exceed 100, and array size will not exceed 200. So for the case of this, we can partition, like, I mean, 155 and 11 both are equal sum, but here it's not possible. And yeah, that's it. So how to proceed here? Like,
Okay. So before that, um, it's a non-empty array, and only positive integers are going to be a part of the input array. And anything that we need to be worried about, because there's no negative numbers, there are no zeros. I don't think zeros can be there,
your zeros can be there.
but they are useless, right? Because we
No, I
just
think they won't be there. It says positive.
yeah, even
Zero
if
is
it
not a positive. Yeah. Zero is not a positive number, right?
hmm.
I mean, neither positive nor negative. I don't think so. It will be included.
Okay. So each of the array element will not exceed 100, and the array size will not exceed 200.
200, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So there is nothing overflow and all those things we need to worry about.
Yeah, most of the clarifications are done, like positive part is given.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Okay. So now the problem statement, what it says, we need to take this input array and we need to partition this whole input array into two separate arrays, right?
Yeah.
So the sum of those two separate arrays should be equal.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay.
Yes.
So to do a brute force, what we can do, right? Or do we have any more clarifications on the problem, or we want to actually understand it more better? Any questions?
I think we can start with brute force. Like,
Yeah, okay, it's clear, right? So, so how do we go about a brute force way? So brute force way, okay, so just form two separate arrays every time, okay, and then do a sum every time of those two separate arrays, and when they are equal, uh, so always take one input. uh, will it be something like a knapsack? First you take an input.
So,
Yeah, so
Santosh, but
go ahead.
even before like that, if the array sum is odd, so we cannot split that into two.
Yeah, that I was saying. Yeah.
Okay, so the array sum. So you want to first actually add all of those, yeah, and then find if it is odd, then you just return. Okay, okay, that is done. But in a brute force, if we think that we are given a very good input, which is
Yeah,
not like that.
and after that, if it's even, then we know that we just need to find the way whether we can. Let's say if the sum is x, so can we make a subset of x by 2 from that
Okay.
array? If we can make it, then we are that means we can do that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So actually, we just divide that whatever the sum is, and then we just again iterate through the array and see if we find any values which add to that sum. Okay, and if we find it, then we just return true. Okay, but that will be an optimized version of doing it.
Yeah.
No?
Right.
Yeah.
One thing like I'm thinking very loud, what we can do is like we know the range of sum, right? It would be from 0 till 20,000, right?
Yeah, n into n plus 1, but
Yeah, so
Okay,
we
yeah.
have maximum 100 and each the array size is 200. So 200 into 100, that is 20,000. So we look for an
It can be
we
more
find,
also. There can
no,
be
because it says
duplicates.
that each of the array element will not exceed 100 and the array size is 200. So maximum sum possible would be 20,000, right?
No,
Oh,
but if you have all
say
the
that
numbers are
all
100,
are unique.
if all are hundreds,
Yeah, so it would be what?
20,000. Yeah,
2
yeah.
and 4.
You are right. Yeah, you are right. Yeah.
Maximum. So if we find we find whether we have a subsequence with a sum, which is we find the mid first from this range 0 till 20,000, and we check if a subsequence is there with that particular sum. So if it's there, then okay, so
Yeah, that is right. You will have to find a subsequence, correct?
basically I'm thinking this says that this has only positive numbers. So if I don't find a particular sum, I don't have to go for the left side, right? Because it contains only positive numbers. So because let's say I'm looking for a sum which is say 25. So if I'm not able to find a subsequence with this 25 sum, then I won't have a subsequence with sum lesser than 25 because it has only positive numbers.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm thinking somewhat on that lines.
Okay. Yeah, that is also right. But are you not also thinking similar to what Praveen is saying, right? Somewhat. Okay, but I think getting a brute force is more, not so easy, or maybe this is the only brute force way, right? Because we have to find, anyway, we have to actually find the sum of the input array to first validate if it's possible or not on a very high level. And then we already have the information, whatever the sum is, we just divide by 2, and then we actually go whatever the way we want, right?
can't we do like this? I mean, take the sum of entire array and delete the first. I mean, subtract the first number from the sum and check whether it's equal or not. Again, 1 plus 5 that you subtract from the entire sum and check sum of both the arrays are equal or not.
Yeah, so that is what we are coming to. We are all coming to the same the optimum approach, right?
Right, Santosh.
Yeah,
So
Pankaj.
this is classical subset sum DP problem, right? And that means it's a NP hard problem, and which means we anyway have to explore all the search states. I mean, we have to do complete search. So if you say there's any easy solution or naive solution, that means we have to anyway search or look for all the states. We can't do better than this. That's a limitation.
Right.
So, I mean, you can't do better than this. You can only optimize it through memoization, and which is a DP solution.
Correct. Okay. Good. Yeah. Okay. So Pankaj, do you have something in mind? You want to share something?
I mean, I solved it with the standard top-down approach. I mean, we have solved
Yes.
similar kind of questions many times here.
Right. Right. Right.
So I can share my solution if
Yeah,
you guys.
Sure. Yeah. Well, let's go with top down first. That is a good one to do. Please increase your font. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Good.
this
Yeah.
is what this line, I calculate the sum. And if it is odd, and that means we can't have a even distribution, so I return false. Else this is my target. And then this is the solution. If I reach the target, that means I have reduced it to 0. That means it is possible to have such subset, so it returns true. And if I have look for all the elements, or I've gone beyond the limit, means it's negative, false. Else it's a inclusion and exclusion. First select this element. Here we ignore the element. Here we select the element, and just keep exploring top to down.
What is this cur thing? What is this cur?
So this is your current sum. You want to get the target, right? So you pass it here, and then whenever you select any number, you just reduce the value from the current.
So that is the value what we are discussing about. Like we first form the sum and then we divide by 2. That is the target.
Yeah.
So this target, like on this, when you are doing this end target and curly braces sum by 2. So is this a kind of initialization?
Where, which line?
Line 13.
Yeah. This is initially.
Okay, so you have initialized target as sum by 2.
Yeah. So this is the top-down approach, and this is the recurrence relationship. Yeah.
Pankaj, just one more question. I tried with the same approach. Okay, so but I think when I try to submit it, there is like a very big test case when it's not accepting. But when I try it on the
Yes.
so it don't get accepted for a huge test case. I think that's only some problem with my code. But is it working for you?
Yeah, it is like accepted code, and yeah. So maybe you so the top to down the DB solution works, and it's fine for lead code. Maybe you are doing some additional work. You can optimize it.
Yeah, you need to actually take care of, if you look at this line number 4 and 5, those base cases, if you really pay good attention, then I think you should be good.
I mean, you can check this condition, because if you go negative, or I mean beyond your target sum, don't explore further.
Okay.
So you can like closely look here. I mean, we can also review your solution later on or on the Discord. But yeah, definitely.
One more thing. Can we modify it further by breaking this helper nums index +1 again to a different and then to it? Because you are basically, if this value is available, if this value is available into your like map, you are where you are assigning it into an array. So if this value is already available, why not to pick it from there? Why you are again calculating it?
No,
Hey,
I think
he's using memoization.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And one more thing, don't split these two lines. That means if any of, because this is OR operator, and compiler may optimize your code. If any of this is 1, then it will not explore other branch. If you have two separate I mean, you split this line, then you can explicitly check for it. If it's true from first call, then don't call the second helper method. So, or I mean,
Yeah.
so just keep in mind, maybe you are splitting it and you are all the time you are exploring both the subtrees and maybe you are not getting that optimization. I mean,
Okay.
so
No,
yeah.
I'm not exploring every time, but I'm just checking if it's available or not. Okay, so if it's not available, then I'm gonna check. But what you are doing here right now, you are every time checking it. Okay, so I'm saying you can repeatedly use the equation number 6 for the two parts of equation number 7 also, where you are adding the sum, and one where you are not adding the sum.
That is what he's doing, you know. If you look at line 7, he's doing that. But he's clubbing it together.
So my point is, okay, maybe you guys can correct me. So if it is something like some expression here, and you OR it with some expression. So if this results true, then we will never call this EXP2.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. So even if you club these two things here, compiler will ensure that it's only calling if it is not 1.
Yeah.
If it's true, then it will stop going down further. Getting my point. So I mean, you guys, I mean, we have to check your code, how you are doing it. But I see no problem here in this line. Because compiler actually will take care of this.
So that optimization compiler might be doing, and therefore you are not getting a TLE. That is
Sometimes it is guaranteed by language. This is guaranteed by language.
Yeah. So actually, either way it should work. Either way it should work, I would say. Yeah. Okay. We can actually look into your code, Diwan, if you can post in Discord, and then we can actually find out how best we can help. Okay.
Yeah.
No problem. Thank you, Pankaj. Yeah.
So your D state is basically like your array index and your current sum, right?
Yes. I mean, I always confuse, so because the way I go for BP solutions, I just go with top down approach, just write down the recurrences and try to memorize it. And most of the time, I just try to memorize all the function parameters which are changing. So yeah, so here it's index and the current sum.
Right. So essentially, your final answer would be in DP of 0, comma nums by 2, right? Sum by 2.
Yes. No. It will be index. That means size of num, and the size. If suppose the size is s of the vector, then it will be DP of s, comma 0.
But I think you are passing 0 first, right? Like you're starting from the 0th index.
Can you? I don't think so, right? You're just returning the value, right?
Yeah, I'm returning as well, and you can always get the result at 0 size, comma 0. I mean here. This will be the answer.
So in that case, your IDX.
No, I think it will be DP of 0, comma 0 and sum by 2.
Wait. My first call is 0. Yeah, right. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Right. This will be the answer actually.
0 and target actually.
Yeah.
So
sorry. You're right. This should be the answer.
Yeah.
So one thing, like I might have misinterpreted this. So you are checking whether we can form a subsequence of sum which is equal to half the sum of the array.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes.
It is possible, right? That no, it's okay. Makes sense. They have to be equal, right?
Yeah, they have to be equal. Yeah. Okay, no problem. Thank you, Pankaj. So yeah, so we would like to discuss the bottoms up approach also, right?
Pankaj.
Shashank.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Or who,
I
whoever,
thought
yeah, whoever has that, yeah. I saw it on
that,
your screen, therefore.
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I thought somebody was there. So, so here what I'm doing, I'm first calculating the entire sum of the array and the, what do you say, length of the nums. Now I'm checking if the sum is odd or not. So for that AND operation, if you get result as 1, that shows that the entire sum is, I mean, sum is odd. The result of this is you get 1. In that case, we'll return false. Else we'll divide the entire sum by 2. That is right shift I'm doing. Right
Okay.
shift means dividing everything by 2. And I'm initializing a DP array. For 0, it is true. And for remaining, I'm creating those many false into targets. And I'll go through each number of the nums. Either I'll take that number, or if I find that sum is greater than X, then I'll take DP of it, the complement part of it, and check whether, I mean, these two values are true, then they'll give, if you are having true for this and true for the other, it will give you true, or in the other case, it will give you false. So for every number in the target +1, I'm doing this. And if you find that already result is present in your target, then just return true, else at last will return false.
So you are using just 1D DP.
Yeah, 1D DP.
So your line 8 actually, what it does, not very clear. So for first in the for loop is like S in the range of target +1. That is what the first will be, right?
Yeah, that it will be first this will execute.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
depending on that, these two will execute. So they are checking if your current number, if the sum that you are checking in the target, if that is greater than your X, then definitely it will split into two, right? X and the, I mean, the S minus X, you'll have somewhere inside the DP.
okay.
Actually, it's a very concise form of representing. Here,
Right.
while going through the target, I'm checking if my S is greater than X. Then I'll S minus X. If I see that is present in my DP somewhere, then I'll some value it will give true or false. And
Okay.
this could be the one case. Other case would be directly. I mean, if it is lesser than X, then definitely you can directly pick that some value in the DP.
Okay. Okay.
Presenting the
And how is this line number 6 working? Like, what is it doing?
6 for 0, it's true, and false, whatever target, like target you get, there's those many number of times false would be written. Like if target is 10, 10 times false, an array of size 10 with all false.
Yeah. Okay. So if you would have had a DP of 2-dimensional array, okay, so that would be slightly different, right? Yeah.
Yeah, this is 1D, so
Yeah, it's
2D would have
more.
been far better because we are more used to that.
No, actually, I don't think so. We can use a 2D in this case, right? Or yeah, even if we use, it's not so useful, right? So because we need this information, because we are building on the previous values, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that is the reason we need a single array will always be more beneficial. We
It will
can
be over
do,
2D.
yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I will say, like for this problem, this is a kind of a variation of 0-1 knapsack problem, and I believe like someone already mentioned that earlier. So what we are looking here is dividing like the sum by 2, and then trying to figure out like given the array, can we get that sum by picking up the element exactly once, correct?
Yeah.
So it's like a very classical like version of 0-1 knapsack problem. I like suggest like trying out the 0-1 knapsack problem first, and then like this will makes it just like a extended version of it where you need to figure out sum by 2. That's it, nothing more than that.
Right. Actually, yeah, we discussed the top-down approach. Pankaj actually just demonstrated that. So we did that. It was almost like a zero knapsack, what the way he did. But he's actually trying to show us the bottom-up approach. right, Shashank?
So it will be also n square only. I mean, within the for loop again, I'm going through each of the target. Like the row will contain the nums and the vertical will have the targets, or the other way around. You can swipe it,
Yeah.
and then just we are filling.
How would it be n square?
Because for
It
every
depend on the target, and the target could be quite large. So
yeah, in worst case, I'm saying not the best possible.
no, the worst case is the target's always greater than n,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, it could be
Yeah.
N2 by.
So it have to be bigger than n square.
Yeah,
Bigger than
because this target is like
Shashank,
half of the sum, right? And the sum is going to be or the sum of the array, and that that defines the target, that determines the target.
Yeah, I believe like you are plotting the numbers as rows and like the target as from 0 to target as the columns. Then it should be size of the list into like multiply by target.
it is n times s, where n is if the count of nums.
Yes, like or you can say like count like size of list multiply by target.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So in the worst case, what can be the target be? Like what would be the order? Right?
First case it should be n square only. Like if the target is the sum target will be your sum of the entire array, right?
Right.
So
Why they are not saying n square? Because your sum, if you add all those numbers, it will be always greater, right? Greater than n. Because your values will be something like they are 1 to 100, right? So if you keep on adding them, so that will be more than your array size, which is 200. So if, as Harshit said, if all were 100, it would have been 20,000, right?
Yeah.
And then we would have to go through each and every that DP array and actually set each and every index to true or false, whatever it is, at least to true. And therefore, actually traversing that array is more expensive. Yeah, I
or
agree.
even we look at the equation which Pankaj was using. So T of n will be T of x plus T of s minus x, right?
But this will also be true for his case, correct?
Yeah.
The time complexity will be almost similar. It won't
Yeah.
be different though.
Yeah, it's
Now I was thinking like if we want to get y equation, like if we are not able to visualize y using this way, then if we look at the recurrence relation, so T of entire sum is equal to T of x, whatever time it takes, plus T of s minus x. So even if we solve that, it will be in a,
No,
I
but
mean, power
we
of
should look at the number of states, right? Number
yeah,
of
number
states we are. Yeah,
taking,
so,
yeah.
right. So I think in the worst case, like the complexity would be n square into the maximum possible element of the array.
Maximum possible element or the sum?
No, because so if we try to like mathematically say, it would be size into the maximum sum. So maximum sum can be the maximum possible value of a particular element into the size, right? So we have size into maximum value.
Maximum sum, right? For value you're telling.
Yeah. So like maximum sum would be the maximum possible value for a particular element into the maximum size, right?
Okay, yeah.
So 200 into 100, 20,000.
20,000, yeah.
It's, I'll write on the chat right now.
Yeah, please.
Like I don't think like we should be visualizing like that way. We can like keep it simple. Size of list into the target. Target can be now anything. Okay, it can be size of the list into the maximum value, like as we are saying, or it can be anything.
Yeah.
From 2D person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can switch to next then.
Yeah.
Or Harshit is writing.
No.
Okay.
No issues, yeah. Okay, so before you just go to the next one, I'll quickly share mine also. It is almost
Okay.
similar to yours, but you
Right.
know, when you write in Python, I slightly get confused, you know.
Yeah, that.
So yeah, so I'm just representing C plus the same thing. It's nothing
Right.
different. Okay, so here actually I'm doing the sum, and then this is what I'm checking for the odd value, and then now I'm dividing by 2 and then forming the same array the way you did, right? It with false. And then I just have a base case for DP0 as true, and from there, because I'm using sum plus 1 as a DP, right? So I can use the first element as a base case, and then I actually do 2 loops the way you're doing. One actually first as taking each and every number from the nums value, nums vector, and then I'm running through from the sum to my num, okay,
Reverse
whatever
way.
this value, yeah, the reverse way. And then I'm setting all those indexes, okay, because I saw in your case you are using and, so I was not very sure how that will be. So but here I'm using DPI, okay, because it's the same thing, right? I'm just ORing with whatever is the DPI minus 1, okay, and that is what is slightly, yeah, it's
So
almost
and
similar, but yeah.
yeah, and is just checking whether the value is greater than x or not. First, it will say if it whether it is greater or not. If it is greater, then we'll go for the second value, that complement sum is there in the DP or not. And if it is not greater, then that statement will not be executed. That's why just for checking.
Oh, okay. You are doing an optimized version then in that case. You're slightly
Yeah.
optimizing that. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I'm here checking just if it is sum at any point of time, just return true because we don't need anything to do further, right? Because at a particular point where when before only we find DP of sum equals to, then we return. Right. I just wanted to share that maybe, you know,
No, it's good.
What
for my better understanding. Yeah.
what
Yeah.
trick you to do in the reverse? Is it what benefit when we do in reverse on the nested for loop?
I don't think so. There is any benefit. We can do either ways, I would say, because if we do it from beginning also, we can use this DP0 as true and then keep on building it. Right? That also should be
Yeah, but
fine, right?
naturally people
No.
will do from left to right, right? And now you do from right to left. So
Right,
what you know?
Then we'll have to check that condition whether sum minus nums is greater than 0 or not.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, I did it this way when I was doing it. So actually, this came very quick to me, or maybe I just got it. It worked to some extent with some tweaking. And yeah, that is what I thought became much better. But I don't have an answer for that, Leon. Sorry.
But I think both will be same almost. Only we have to check it shouldn't.
Yeah, maybe, but I think DP of sum might be true. In both cases, will be true. Okay, that optimization can be done anywhere. Yeah.
So in this
But
case,
what you say makes sense. We can do it the either way.
Yeah.
Yes. Go ahead.
so in this case, you will never get I minus num is negative.
I minus num is negative.
Line 50.
Yeah, that's also true because the sum has been formed from that number, accumulation of aggregation of those numbers. So chances of getting that you are not checking here whether your complement will be negative or that makes a difference, I think, while going reverse way.
But if I go from the beginning, I won't do it that way, right? We'll have to change this.
Because the conditions always I greater than or equal num. So never go negative.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
The
will be
condition
automatic.
for the nested for loop.
Yeah. But no, if even if I go from left to right, okay, I won't be able to implement this one, right? So I'll have to look from what I'm starting with, and I will actually where I'm going to reach. It will be maybe like I plus num, something like that, you know, because I have to actually do it the other way instead of I minus.
There again, sum minus the other element you will do. dp of I and sum minus I. There also, I think, in forward way or not.
Which one?
Like
In the
Pankaj was
forward, right?
doing, like dp of x or dp of some minus x you'll do in the forward case also. Like in backward, what you are doing, I think the equation will remain the same in forward also, or will it change?
Forward, this will change, I would say. This won't be the same, right? It
Yeah,
won't
we
make
just
sense
have
to
to
make
check that
I minus
condition.
1,
Like
yeah.
if I minus num is greater than equal to 0, then only we call.
Yeah.
Oh,
What would C++
Yep.
will do? Garbage value for if I minus num is negative.
Yeah, that's segmentation error.
Yeah, indexing, right? This array indexing will be a problem, yeah. So, but yeah, if it is from left to right, it will have to be a different way of implementing.
I was just wondering, like, how will a solution change if it says that negative numbers are also allowed?
So you are saying if we had negative numbers in the instead of
Right.
positive also.
Right.
But okay, that will be a totally different case. It will have to
You'll fall
use
in
Curtin's algorithm, something like that, right?
I think it
your
will be
math.
network flow problem where you have sync also.
Oh, Pankaj, come again. What was that?
It will turn into, it will actually change into a network flow problem where you have a sync as well in your system. You can always reduce your target.
Okay.
I mean your current sum because you have negative coins. So it's a graph problem.
Mm-hmm. But will it be, okay. Will it be converging? That is what I was thinking.
Under certain conditions.
Okay, on certain conditions, okay.
Yeah, I mean, usually the problem, like whoever like defining the problem, he should put some like constraints. So as, I mean, you know that there's a saying you can always go down and reduce it to minus infinity.
Right.
If repetitions are allowed. So yeah, but there are some problems with this.
Yeah, they will be sure. Just taking longer.
Elaborate
Okay.
a bit on this network flow. What you said.
I mean, you can Google. There's like graph topic and yeah. I mean, you can search in graphs. This network flow. I mean, it is also on the com, and like you can check the algorithm book. You will find them.
Okay, good. Yeah, so let's go with our best problem of today.
Yeah. So here we have to find the intersection of two linked lists. So here C1 is the intersection, and yeah, it's like, yeah, let's look at the constraints. So if the two linked lists have no intersection at all, null will return. The linked list must return their original structure after the function returns. And we'll assume that there are no cycles anywhere inside the linked list. And each of the value of the linked list will lie in this range. And our code should run in O of n time using O of 1 memory.
Okay.
Yeah. So here, like at C1, it's
can you just go down to the constant? Can you just scroll down? Yeah. Okay. What he says, the linked list may retain their original structure after the function returns. It means we cannot modify the input, correct?
Linked list, yeah.
And also the two linked lists have no intersections, then we return null. So they can be not intersecting at all, correct? And if it is intersecting, yeah. And then you assume that there are no cycles, so that is good. That makes it more easier, right? And then your code should run with O of n. So actually the last point, your code should run preferably of O of n time is always the case with linked list, right? You usually do it on O of n.
Mostly, most of the times.
Right.
Rarely we have seen order of n square.
Yeah.
I mean, not only almost.
That is what I think. Maybe I'm wrong though.
Sorting or might take.
Sorting, okay.
Can we talk about like what are the multiple approaches we can use to solve this question?
Okay. So okay. So
one of sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Dilip. Yeah.
I think one approach would be like use a hash map and store all the objects hash set, okay, which stores all the addresses or memory object something in that, and go on to the other list and see at what point we get we have a node which is in the hash set.
Yeah,
That
hash
would,
set, right? Yeah. Mm.
yeah.
No, not node. I think address, right? Node can be similar also. Node value or address you're
I
talking.
mean, yeah, address.
Yeah, we are hashing the node, like, so every node will be unique node.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one will be so you will take one list and go through, put that in the hash set, and then you will start iterating with the second one, and then you will just look in the hash set. If it is there, then actually return that value.
So in hash set, will you pushing the value or the address will be pushing, right?
Yeah, it will be the address of the node.
Address.
Yeah.
Because nodes can be similar, value can be similar in both. Like
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is right. So that is one thing. And what are the other things?
So what is the space and time complexity for this one?
Time, I think it's often like both of them length and space would be often.
Time also will be open, right?
Both should be often.
Yeah, often.
Yeah, both are
And space.
open. Yeah.
Okay. What are the other?
Or even yeah. Even
if
would be for every node.
There's two lists, right? You put a small one in the hash, then the space will be smaller, right?
But what if both of the lists are the same size?
That's the best case.
And moreover, we need to find the length.
For the time complexity, we have to cite it in terms of M and N, right?
Okay.
You have the size of each.
I think in Leon's case, we have to try many passes will be there. First pass you'll do to calculate the length of both the list and then compare whose length is lesser or smaller. But in case of Dilip, what he was mentioning, in single pass itself, things are happening, right?
But we save on the space complexity, right? If we
Yeah,
put
that's
in
a
the smaller list.
that's the advantage. Yes.
Yeah, but at the end, if we have both of the same list, then actually they're not saving much, right?
Tough to
That
say.
would be one.
Okay. Okay, so this approach, what is the other approach?
Other like you reach, I mean, let's say, calculate the length of both the list, and depending on that, you first try to reach at a point where both the pointers are similar in both the linked list. Like whichever extra length is that, you cover that and reach till the point where you find your pointers on both the lists are at the same position.
Okay,
And then keep on checking if the address of them are equal, then return at that point, otherwise move both the pointers parallelly.
How will we reach to that point?
Like you calculate the length of first list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and second list is 3. So 5 minus 3 is 2. Difference is 2. So go on the list 1 and travel 2 nodes. So you will reach at 1. Another pointer will be at 3. Now from here you keep on checking whether both of them have the same address or not. If they have same address, then return. Otherwise, move both of them. You'll reach 2, and there you'll find that both are pointing to the same address. So return from that. That is one of the intersection point.
Yeah.
So So for this, we just need an extra pointer, which will be needed to traverse the both linked lists. Okay.
Right. You'll have to do 2 passes first to get the length. So anyway, what Leon was saying also is slightly similar than in that case, right? We just find whatever that length is, because that is necessary.
Another approach I think is you travel both lists to the end, and then you kind of reverse, right? As you reverse, you check if they are the same address. This can be a candidate, and you reverse it again. If they're the same address, you know, that's a candidate too. But then when you go to the next one, a different address, then you know the last one is the correct one, right? You follow me? You go all the way to the end, and then for each you go all the way to the end, you reverse them.
Okay. So you are saying, like, if we take this example 2, okay, so if I have 2 pointers, one starting at 1 and the other starting at 3 on the list B and A respectively. So I just move.
And both gonna end up at 4, right? Because you travel all the way to the end.
Okay. So when I reach, because first pointer of B will reach 4. So in that case, what do you want me to do? Actually reverse it and then start with A again?
Yeah, if I reverse, I don't have the pointer to reverse. I thought I can somehow reverse it.
I think we can.
Yeah, I think we can reverse the both array, and then you know traverse it backward to see, you know, until the point that they separate. Then we know we can find where they meet, right?
Yeah, so I would say, like, what you are saying is right. You know, when the B pointer reaches 4, the A pointer will be somewhere at 1, the second one, right? So in that case, when B is null and actually A is at 2, so you can actually make B point to A, okay, so start of A. And similarly, when A reaches 4, you can make A to start at initial position of B. And then again keep traversing. So at that time, you will have those both of these strings, both of these lists of almost similar value, and then you will intersect at 2. But you will need 2 passes for each and both of these lists, right? So that is what you are talking about, Leon, right?
Leon, how would you reverse both the linked lists? Because
no. He's not saying actually not to reverse, but when you actually traverse and when the B reaches 4 first, because it is shorter link. So what you need to do is take that B's pointer and actually start from A's start. Okay. And then you again keep on doing it next, but then at the same time the previous A pointer will reach 4. So you start that, connect that to the B start position. Okay, so you will actually take care of the difference between the A and B length, you know. And then at the second pass, you will both reach at the 2 position, intersect at 2 position. So
that
you will
constant
need
difference will be maintained throughout the list.
Right.
Sorry, Santosh, could you repeat again? I didn't follow you here.
Okay, so what Leon was saying, you know, you start 2 pointers, one starting from A and one starting from B. And in each while loop, when you are traversing, you keep on moving both the pointers to its next position. Okay. So what will happen as least B is smaller, so your B's pointer will reach 4 much earlier than the A's pointer, correct?
Yeah.
So use that pointer of B and then you actually start again from A.
Okay.
And same thing when your A reaches 4, you use that pointer and then point it to start from B. Okay. So in that case,
here I did not follow you that. I mean, when B reach at the end, so you resetting the A.
No. I'm not. I'm still. So my A actually is still running. I'm not actually changing. I'll just draw it here. You know. Okay. So I have one pointer here, P1. Okay, and then this is P2. So now I do a next year. So P1 will come here. Okay. So P2 will be here, right?
Yeah.
And then P1 will come here, and then P2 will be here.
Yeah.
So now P2 is at the end, correct? So if I say P2 next, so my P1 will be here, okay, and then P2 will be null. So when P2 is null, actually I will start pointing P2 to here. Okay, now my P2 will point here. So in that case, when I say next, my P2 will be here now, and P1 will be here. Okay. So when I say again next, then my P2 will be here and P1 will be null. So what I will do is, again, I will point P2 here. Okay. So now my P1 and P2 are pointing to almost the same positions, which are closer to 2. And then when I do next, okay, for both of them, they will intersect at 2, and then I actually return 2. So this way I'm avoiding the way what Shashank was saying, exactly the same way, but we are actually doing 2 passes there. Here also we are doing 2 passes, right?
But there could be multiple passes here, right?
What is the validity for this algorithm?
Because you are using the same, it's like having the length of PA and PB, so you are adding both of them, right? So that will actually add PA plus PB. So both of them, whichever the pointer you start with, it will be PA plus PB. So it will actually that of the same length, yeah.
But I think
Santosh,
regarding
is
the
it-
passes, there are multiple.
I'm sorry.
Can I
Is
draw
it-
something so that it can?
Dan was saying something. Sorry.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Can I draw something to make it clear?
Sure. Do you want me to
Okay.
erase this?
Yes, or I'll try to erase.
Yeah, no problem. Go ahead. Yeah.
Santosh,
I
in your
think-
case,
Okay, fine.
just one
sorry.
question. In your case,
Yeah.
if two linked lists are not converged, okay, so we'll keep on traversing every time because would not it be clear? I'm not sure if two linked lists are converging, okay, and I'm following the way you want, okay. So automatically it will not be. It will be an infinite loop. Again, I'm traversing every time.
No,
Because the
so-
condition here is.
So can you come with an example where they won't converge?
Yeah, just take two different non-converging linked list, one of length 3 and other of length 2. Just that's, yeah, take this, okay. No.
Okay. So in that case, actually, you will have to have some value, to actually see if they are not converging. Okay, yeah, I got your point, right. So in that case, you'll have to find something. In your case, you'll have to, when you are actually take care of that. So when you are actually going through this, okay, so when you are actually in your while loop, if you take some information like if whenever your P reaches A, okay, I'm getting your point. What you're trying to say?
Won't work, I think.
No, that will work, but if your both elements are not actually mapping, yeah, in that case you will have to actually check for. Okay.
No, then I think in
If
that
it-
case only 2 times P1 and P2 will hit null, right? If third time again, if it is hitting null and it is not converging, that means there is a flaw in that. Like first time,
Yeah.
something the P1 gets null. So first time it hit, approach the null. Next time again, when P1 will go to P2, it will hit null. So at max, any pointer can hit the null 2 times. And even after hitting 2 times, it doesn't converge. That means both are parallel, both of them.
I don't think, it depends on the difference of the length, right?
Yeah, not on the diff. Yeah, exactly. We are not
A
maintaining.
is not.
But
PB
there is
and-
there is a point saying that the sum of the length of both the linked list will be common, okay, will be the same, okay. So if the pointer pointed to linked list 1 has to travel m plus n length, then surely the pointer pointed to linked list B will also have to travel m plus n, and it is very sure that after m plus n traversing, they are gonna finally meet at m at the converging point. If there is another loop that is gonna start it, then it is very sure that the linked lists are not converging.
Okay, if more than m plus n it is covering the length, then we can say that there is links are parallel, right?
In spite of saying n plus n, we can initially tell that if the initial pointer is again becoming like the initial pointer, then return false. Returns a null pointer.
Yeah, so because when you come to the breaking point, you will compare the two values, right? So it will be null at the end. Both will be null at the end, right? So you will exit that while loop, what you are traversing, and then you compare both the pointers. If they are same, then you return an intersection, valid intersection node, or else you return null. Correct.
But yeah, that is also correct. But what I was saying won't satisfy. Like any pointer will hit null only 2 times. Like first time through A, it can hit null. Or second time, if in intermediate node, then it will reach to B and it will hit the null. But this time, if it is hitting the null, then
Shashank, I think what you saying and what I'm saying is similar. Okay,
all
I'm saying the initial pointer, you are saying the null. Yeah, we can make it like if it hits null twice, then yeah, it will return false.
Hmm.
yeah, but this is a bit complicated, right? This process. I mean,
Yeah, it is slightly complex to understand also, that is for sure. But yeah, the other way what you did was a very easy one of doing it, just find the initial difference, of both the least, and then actually start from that. But you are just doing a 2-pass. If this works, actually, it is also doing the same thing, but actually you are implementing in a single while loop. That is only.
and how are you making sure only 2 passes will be there? That's also
Well, 2 passes is fine because you are actually what batch you can have. Either you'll have the least of two, both of the same sizes, or both of different sizes. So either way, if you add them, okay, they are going to have only 2 pass, right? Because they have to actually meet at some point, or they have to come to a point where both of them are null at the same time. So then you break off the loop,
at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, you'll have to have that in the while in your loop condition somewhere, while or for loop, to actually exit that loop when actually both are null, because we don't want both to be null at all.
And secondly, managing pointers also here will be a bit intricate. Like you have to change each time once you
Absolutely, yeah. That is one small thing you need to take care of, but that is not a big thing to do. Yeah, but it depends on again languages, so
yeah.
it will be different everywhere. Yeah, so I have that implementation, so that is why I was talking about it. Yeah.
Just
so,
share.
Yeah, you go ahead with yours first. That is that. Okay, let me share. Okay.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, mine is like this. So initially I'm taking 2 current pointers. One is pointing to A, other to B. Now initializing both length to 0, calculating the length of first linked list and calculating the length of second linked list. And in line 19, I'm just taking the difference. Once I get the difference, I'll check whose length is bigger, either length A or length B. If length A is bigger, then till that point I'll walk my current A pointer, or the other way around. Like if B is bigger, then B will reach till that point. Once both of them are at the parallel point, we'll check. As long as the address of both are not equal, keep on moving both of them. And the moment you hit that they are equal, you return either cur of A or current of B, anything. Either of them it is, because both of them will be pointing to the same node. And yeah.
Yeah, right.
So what if the lists are like they are non-intersecting?
They are not.
They're
not converging. Yeah, the example 3.
If they are not converging,
so we'll hit null, I think. Right?
It will hit null automatically. Then it will give null. I think I haven't taken care.
Because actually he is having a difference, right? So if he's at A is at 6 and B is at 1, okay, so he will just traverse till he goes to end. In this case, in the while loop, whereas line 28, if current A is not equal to current B,
yeah,
okay, and then you keep doing that till you are exhausted, right?
But if current A equal no and current B also equal no.
So see, when both are null, then it will return null, right? So that is what it will be the stopping condition. Correct. So he's going here at 6 and 1, and then he's going to 4 and 5, and then after that will be null. So your while on line 28 condition will be false, then he will exit that loop and then return current A, which is null. That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
You can share. So overall, like order of n only like passes will be one while calculating the length while making both pointers at same place, and third pass will be for this. At
Yeah,
which point,
this is order of n, correct.
yeah, overall order of n in 3 passes.
Absolutely, yeah. You have three. You have to do 3 passes, right? Yeah. So, but being a linked list, you'll always have to do at least more than one pass, right, to find a length. Whatever is optimal, what you say, implementation is. I don't think so. You can do just within an O of n.
Yeah, that is possible
A
only in
single
array.
pass. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even if you want to convert that the whole thing into an array, if you store it somewhere, we still have to actually. Oh, space will be more in that case. Yeah.
More.
Okay. No problem.
Yeah, let's go through
Yeah,
yours.
I will just quickly share and then we can. Okay. So this was what I was talking about. Okay. So in this case, I'm having these 2 pointers of head A and head B, and then while loop. Okay. So here actually what happens, okay, before we come to this portion, so this is what we do, right? We are actually keep on moving to the next positions always, right? And then if we have both of the same values, okay, then we break. And that is the point where it will be either C1, or if it is a non-converging loop, it will be to the end, where it will be both of them will be null, right? The same thing what is happening there. But in case when you're traversing, your while loop, you can always look for if they are not same, because if they are same, we don't want to go further also, right? Because that is the intersection point. Either they are null or we find an intersection point, and also we need to check if both of them are not null. Both of them should be, at least one of them should be not null, right? So if both are null, it means that they are not going to converge, and then we exit this loop. And then we actually move this pointer, like if PA is null, right, when my A pointer has reached the null position, so I then start pointing it to the head of B, and
Yeah, the
vice
reversing.
versa, right?
So what
if
about
we
the
just
case where if it is parallel, where you are taking care of that?
so yeah, when if you take any example of the parallel case here, okay, so what will happen in parallel case also, right? So either it will go from 2 to 4 and 1 to 5. Okay, then this will go here and this will come here. So at the end, okay, they will go to null, both of them, right? So here
Yes,
in this case, it will come here and break because both of them are null.
So
right?
can null be compared?
So see, if both values are null, they are going to be the same, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I
what
was
we're doing,
saying
right?
can null.
We're also comparing null
Yeah.
in a while.
And then just return here whatever is that value. Either I don't think so you need to compare these things over here though, but that's fine. So you can either return PA or just null. So it's the same thing what you are doing, and also I would say the passes are also almost the same. But it's only the way it is written is slightly a different way and very simple to represent. That's all.
And it's very short also. Like mine, many lines are there.
Yeah, but it is not so easy to come up and understand. It takes some time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So because it's being actually moved from one list to another.
So basically, we are swapping a particular changing one list to the other only when we have exhausted the list, right?
Right. Yeah. So whichever we exhaust first, we actually go to the second one. So to take care of when differences of the sizes of the two lists, right? Or either ways.
So like, I mean, it's working, it's fine. But what is intuition? I didn't get. Like, on what ground it is confirming that it will meet? I mean, by code wise, it's working fine that it will meet, it will happen. So what is the intuition, basic intuition behind that?
So actually the way you did is exactly the same, right? So what you're trying to do is you're trying to find the size of these two least, okay? And then you are actually moving one element, one least further in such a way that they both start at the same position. Okay, so the lengthwise they should start at the same position. So this is also doing almost the same, okay, but instead of counting the number of lengths, okay, so he's just traversing one way, okay, and then he actually pointing to the other. So that is what he's trying to take care of it here. That's the only thing.
So there should be any proof, right? I mean, like interchanging the pointer will help us. Like in mine case, both are starting from same, so definitely it will. If I mean, either both of them will go parallelly, will never meet, or they will meet at some address. Address I'm comparing.
Are you asking for some mathematical kind of proof?
Yeah, there should be some proof for this, I think.
No, see,
Yeah,
actually,
actually
it is
there
just
is.
length, right? It is just
there is.
length.
Yeah, so it's visualize, Shashank, like if both these linked lists are the same, then there would be just one pass. Like if the length is same, then we would do only one pass. So the thing which you are doing, like calculating the difference and then moving that step forward, that step forward, this is also doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
It is
basically
exactly the same.
Only inter.
So the
Maybe
proof
I'll
will be
draw
the-
it. It will be easier to understand.
Sure, no problem.
Yeah, sure.
So actually, what you did was the proof for this one. So that was the base of the implementation of this.
This one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you are a bit optimizing it, like shifting point.
I don't think so. It's optimizing, but it's only representation wise slightly different.
Yeah, exactly.
So these are the two linked lists, AIC and BIC. So first pointer will travel, the distance traveled by first pointer will be AI plus IC plus BI, right?
Correct.
AI plus IC plus BI. And second pointer, the distance traveled will be BI plus IC plus AI.
Yeah.
Yeah, so both are actually equal.
Yeah.
Oh, length one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very beautifully explained.
Exactly. Now.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah, that makes sense. Because now you see it here, right? BI is here, BI is in the upper one also. And IA is the lower one, AI is in the top, and IC, both of them are there.
And if it is parallel, it will never, distance will never be equal.
Parallel also, you can have these two variations, right? Either they are both are of the same or both are of the difference. But when we are comparing the intersections, in intersection, we are finding that I node, but in parallel, we are finding null. Okay.
Yeah, but length won't be equal. No, like A can be of X length, B can be of Y length.
Okay.
Length of IC would be 0.
In that case.
So in that case, if we have, in this case, AI, right? So if we can have AJ and BI, right? So AJ, AI plus BJ and BJ plus AI, correct?
Okay.
So the length will be same in both of the cases, correct?
If it is parallel, it won't intersect. It will forever go on, but it will be null only 2 times. Like when we are reaching null more than 2 times, we will be stopping there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So like if we are not doing that, it will run forever, I think.
Yeah, if you don't have that condition on line 42, yeah. So if both of them are null, then you are going to exit from the loop.
47.
If both are parallel, we can say IC, length of IC is 0.
Yeah, length of IC is 0. No, but when length of IC is 0. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then
Length
we'll
of
have
IC is
AI.
both are same, AI and BI. Correct. That is also correct.
There is no AI, right? I mean, how can I?
Yeah, there won't be intersection.
Yeah, how can
But
I
okay, see, so you will have AI and BJ, correct?
AI and BJ, yes.
Yeah. So in this lower first equation will be AI and BJ, and in the second will be BJ and AI.
Yeah, that way then length becomes equal.
Yeah.
But intuitively it doesn't looks like. I mean.
So whatever you have done, based on that, this has been created. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So overall length, we are comparing the entire length of the linked list.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Both of them together. So we are doing 2 passes for both of them and another additional pass for intersection. So yeah, almost a 3 pass what you were running through.
Exactly.
I think
Yeah, this code is small, but hard to understand.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Because you have to go, all the way. Then, you try to, it's difficult to trace. But if you draw the picture like this, you can see it.
Right.
I think it take more time to explain.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's difficult to understand too. Yeah. I know. Okay.
Yeah,
So we're done.